Last act of Between the Lines, Scene 1. Setting in time. Exterior of City Lights, 2009. The spirits of Rabbi and Professor await the arrival of the reunion of the surviving members of 1959 for a meeting back at the City Lights for a reminiscing session on their lives and the apperceptions of the departed's lives and how the meaning has shaped their pasts, presents, and futures. Rabbi and Professor are dressed in white wardrobe of the same clothes they had in the 1959. Actors who didn't survive the 50 years are also in angelic white Act First wardrobe. Music is coming from inside the bookstore. At Rise, the aged cast will be the youngsters in Act 1, and they will have shadows of themselves made up of actors who are dressed entirely in black and whose faces are also as black as their clothes. The Negro actors who survived will have white shadows. The shadows don't have any lines in Act Last until they sing the finale echo song.
Good to see you again, Simone. How are things in your neck of the clouds? And what's your God got on the agenda?
I suppose it's a lot like the mystical word stew of nonsense that your God is still peddling in the neighborhood of City of God. But as I contended all along, the Jewish nonsense, and that makes it palatable.
Some things never change. I'm still meandering through my God's litany to sort out the doubts I have about meaning of life and its consequential destination, death. Wonder how the survivors from 59 are doing with their translations of words into meaning. Did you bring a list of who's showing up for today's Gab Fest?
It says here the worm, we get it, gotta get it Jewish guy, is coming even though he has reservations. Who's on yours?
God gave me a list. But me, with my practiced absent-mindedness, I seem to have left a sticky note list somewhere. Probably stuck it on my monitor so I wouldn't forget it.
Let's see if we can recognize the ones who sashay their way to the door. Here comes one now. She's white on white and white, like us. Is she an R.I.P., one of yours?
That has to be Mariah. No one else would ever wear a retro outfit like that. Maybe she won't recognize us.
She never did.
The one with the Bluetooth chewing on her ear looks like Simone. The one is either Melvin or Pipes. He's singing to himself, so that must be Pipes. This one with the hint of eyeliner might be the school craft character. Yes, it's Maxwell. And this one with his nose in a hook just has to be Worm. Here comes Melvin. Must be his day off. Not wearing the usual hard hat and carry a set of blueprints of one of his low-income housing projects.
End of scene, curtain. Scene 2. Setting, interior of City Lights. At Rise, survivors entering to music that helps them meander their way to a table that accommodates them all. R.I.P.ers float, amble around the bookstore.
My hard of hearing or have you talkathon has dumbed down a few notches since 59. Or did your steamroller mind switch from once upon a cup days of caffeine fuel to pacemaker battery power?
You sound like my dear departed Mariah, with her penchant to spit out the usual acid it always seemed to be, marinating her tongue. Maybe that's why the title of her book on modern art howls as if it was ghostwritten by Kerouac, or was it Ginsberg?
Got it. That title was something about appreciating modern art and getting your head out of the art hole. Naughty Mariah. I thought she'd have given up anything having to do with Kerouac when he came out as a turncoat and labeled our beat generations as a fad. He liked to bite the hand that fed him. Do you realize that Kerouac took his French-Canadian ass back to live with his mommy and drowned himself with his music? John Barleycorn.
You two done with your character assassination so we can get down to telling taffy tales?
What in the hell is a taffy tale?
It's a true story. It's just like taffy. The more you bend and stretch it, the better it gets. The same thing we used to do with information processing and retelling something we've overheard and made it sound original, like we know what in the world we're talking about. Emerson put it very aptly when he said, "Don't recite me a quotation, tell me what you know." Meredith. And there I go quoting Emerson to make you think I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Got it. Another way of saying poetic license.
What about the universal license to be utterly absurd? Some call it a social security card. I'm still using mine since the economy forced me out of retirement into what I call rehirement. I've morphed from being a lifelong entertainer into a wage earner waitering tables on the graveyard shift at Denny's. It's straight out of Damon Runyon. Every night, I get a pride of pimp cats and their hooker kittens, a bevy of bunco artists, and a gaggle of insomniac ganders. If they get there before 2 a.m., they like to order splits of cheap screw-off-top white wine because I serve it in ice, in a milkshake mixer, and with stemmed sherbet glasses. Always gets a rise out of them.
Work, play, thinking, some things never change. Whatever label gets affixed to a generation, it's still the same dynamic of doubt. The clock of youth is the cross between a sundial and an hourglass. Every shadow means something, and every grain of sand puts new meaning as the time crawls by. At our age, it's no wonder we get accused of living in the past. Our critics don't understand that old farts are fabulously wealthy because we are survivors of the mind wars of the age of enrichment. We may move as if we were slugs, but our secret is that we have left a trail as we inched our way to today. Get it?
Got it. Once we were bona fide windbags and blowhards that churned up derision, but the damper of time and meaning has brought cooling winds of wisdom that have sifted the dust of downs.
Got it. We were never very good. We were good for each other. Our generation morphed into a stream of labels: hippies, yuppies, dinks, ex-gens, and who knows what's or how the next calling card will read. What drives doubt and what's the result? Easy. I think, therefore I am.
Je pense donc je suis.
Got it. Get it?
Got it.
I used to be the poster child for the naivety of youth. I listened for the music of words instead of meandering amidst mystique of meaning.
Well, for me at least, I figured out Freud's formula. Could quite possibly explain the culture I found myself existing in. He plugged into the formula that's as old as a planet of opposite, positive, and negative poles. The same planet that produces yin and yang, good and evil. For every positive action, there must be an equal negative reaction. Stuff that seems just off the top of my head.
John Lennon and Yoko Ono.
Gotta get it.
As bird chirped, good and evil. Before I was so rudely interrupted on my naivety, I think Freud's version is the ability to be an intellect via the road that at the foundation of your thought is the most base of our survival animalism. Your dick, for example, simply convince people as a fact that your dick, speaking as a gay guy, is the core of all our thoughts and actions. Mind envy works better for me than Freud's penis envy or my dick dilemma.
Doesn't even take a brain cell work for the common man.
As Chester might say, it becomes labeled as science and hence a must, a required course in upper education.
Embalm that in the scripts of some daytime talk shows. Down the line, here we are.
And so, here we are, basking in the bygone days of being beat. But by this age, we've earned our PhDs in meaning. As doctors of meaning, we've learned how to observe, diagnose, and prescribe the mental medicine it takes to cure this chronic ailment of doubt. As Simone says, Je pense donc je suis, cognito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am.
Thinker. That certainly defines Simone's and our man Chester. He abhorred the music mind that might someday sit and invent a machine based on math formulas to create tone roll scales and write the scale in all 12 keys and from that composed a composition. He knew that way back when that this abomination of the true sound of music that we now call digital would be discovered and done by tapping keys on some kind of a computer.
Just makes sense to me. An ear sensitive to the dust would be able to tell a difference between the two. This same ear, my ear, can tell if a recording is analog or the perceived perfection of digital.
It's between the lines. Whether a recording is of an orchestra, breathed to life by human beings, or a computer imitation, why the imperfectly recorded and performed music of the Beatles or our pre-digital music is wrought with emotion and along with it nostalgia, a moment in time. It's sad that fewer and fewer ears exist of that emotion since digital has conquered. Where, oh where, are the hearts and ears sensitive to the dust and will notice? Seems to me that mass marketing of digital has normalized the numbness of numbers. Sic transit gloria mundi.
Chester saw the dawning of digital recording as the man-made dam that blocked up the creek that nourished the plush, ineffable valley. But hope springs when at a moment in time the wildflower flourishes in an arid, empty dust bowl. There is beauty in that. At least there is survival.
That's a deep word, ineffable. All that stuff that's simply known internally, that stuff that can't be conveyed in any language of words and symbols. In Zen, it goes that a finger can point to the moon, but it is not the moon. Just like the word love doesn't begin to touch that goes on in us. Welling up internally, mute, unspeakable.
That's like my lifelong addiction to and dealing in doubt. The things I say, sing, hear, and read feed that addiction of doubt and makes me trip out on what damn near everything means. except maybe the meaning of our personal gods or the answer to a simple math problem or some convoluted equation.
Change the subject, if I may. Thank you. Maxwell, am I the only member of our forum who's never heard you refer to yourself as a gay guy? I was always aware of you being a target of the homophobiacs of the old days, but I'm interested in how you escaped their lynching party.
How apt that you ask, Melvin. I never forgot that house-building poem you wrote in '59, the one about doors and windows to let light come in and out. Unfortunately, my house also had one huge, locked, inescapable closet, and it took me until 1999 to figure out that the combination lock on it wasn't as easy as 1, 2, 3. In fact, no numbers were germane. It was all about change, changes in mores, laws, philosophy, sociology, psychology, metaphysics, and in me, a whole ball of wax. The combination to my closet lock was my need to discover a new dimension of meaning and read between the times. As you posed in your poem, I'm more today than yesterday, but not as much as tomorrow.
Got it. But why am I suddenly flooded with remembrances of that Kubrick movie? A Clockwork Orange? Maybe I gotta get it.
Chester's timepiece, I believe, was a metronome. It was a pulse at the heart of a penchant for analog music and rebellion against the tyranny of digital sound. He believed in the authenticity of the ear. Analog, to him, was the only way to convey the here and now. Get it?
Got it. That's the only way I could ever hear that woman's song of yours. Just like you were Billie Holiday and Maxwell keeping time with fingers snapping. I remember times at Chester's nightclub in Greenwich Village listening to music and songs in their purest form. So that all the instruments we acoustic and lyrics didn't rely on microphones. People actually shut the fuck up and listened.
Chester told me he got that unamplified idea from Michelangelo.
Gotta get it. What did the Italian have to say?
The story goes that when Michelangelo was asked how he came up with his David in that block of marble, he stated that he simply carved away everything that wasn't David. So Chester carved away everything that wasn't music. That's also why his recording studio was absolutely analog. The point was to ride out the acoustic law of the first wave front to get the meaning of the music and lyrics, especially in love songs, that make women wet and men arise to the occasion.
No doubt about it, Simone. What's a fact of life? The truth that's locked in the tones that we breathe with our ears. However, and much to my chagrin, for most of the past 50 years, I've been airing nothing but lies on radio and television.
What? You became one of those politicians who manufactures the truth by telling a lie so many times that it becomes the truth?
Even worse. I modified consumer behavior with my lies because the advertisers could afford to air the lies more than 5.6 times, which is the threshold of repeated lies that transform into an unforgettable truth about the product. Not the monumental brand of lies that make one lose sleep, mind you, but those of delusional advertising copywriter getting a kick out of hyperbole. Exaggeration to get attention, a bit of lies and half-truths. But a half-truth is really a whole lie. Get it?
I bet you were good, Worm. A word-bending prevaricator and bibliophile armed with factoids to motivate those shoppers and impulse buyers.
Right. I even got big awards for my stuff. Clio's, Golden Lions, Hugo's, Emmys, and a bunch of others. Heck, Ray Charles even said in his book that my radio commercial beer songs that he sang were the best he ever did. I also did a good share of drowning those lines in demon rum and hung out with John Barleycorn.
Gotta get it. What made your lies believable?
I led them through other people's teeth. Got it?
Got it. Test the fucking monios by paid actors with some kind of star status, expert opinion, or a believability quality that didn't make people hold their noses while they were eating the bullshit that you dished up.
Guilty on all charges, lady and gentlemen of the jury. And most guilty of only using and relying on my imagination to write about objects and things. I did not use my mind, and I honestly do regret admitting that I did not cogito, or as Simone quoted Descartes, je pense donc je suis.
Thanks, Worm. I feel better about my life in a lie after your discourse on rationalization.
Me too.
Me
too.
Me too.
I wonder what Rabbi Wiseman and his Kabbalah would have to say about a mysterious territory between the facts of Arabic numbers and the perpetual doubt of thinking that I have explored.
Gotta get it.
It has to do with the mysticism of prime numbers and those 4 perfect numbers that the Greeks came up with. For example, I think that each of us is a prime number because we can only be divided, devastated, or destroyed by one or by ourselves. I'm particularly wigged about the fact that we met in a bath of prime numbers. I was back in the prime of 59 when we were too busy making history or being history as we are today. On top of that, I was 23, and today I'm 73, another couple of primes. And what's really weird is that there are 6 of us here today, and 6, the perfect number that can be divided by 1, 2, and 3, and those numbers add up to 6. I think that's just perfect.
Got it. That's a good point. Mariah certainly was a prime one, and, of course, thought she was perfect. The artist and I, the architect, were like dueling banjos when they battled of the meaning of your crafts. She likened my architectural plans and renderings to painting by numbers. What I did was akin to being a writer who was always get a copy, a replication, therefore, of the original. What she did as a painter and a sculptor was one of a kind. Never turned into rows of little boxes like Levittown-type subdivisions after World War II. Our duelings were bloodless, however, and we usually settled our differences in bed.
Gotta get it. Tell us more about this Levittown.
In 1946, Levitt, the potato fields located 25 miles east of Manhattan on Long Island. Amazingly, it was named Levittown, and the Levitts began to build a huge suburb. The new development ultimately consisted of 17,400 homes, 82,000 people. The Levitts perfected the art of mass-producing houses by dividing the construction process into 27 different steps from start to finish. The company or its subsidiaries produced lumber, mixed and poured concrete, and even sold appliances. They built as much as a house they could off-site from carpentry and other shops. The assembly line production techniques could produce up to 30 identical 4-bedroom Cape Cod houses each day. My low-income housing architect and developments were, to Mariah, just copies of Levittown.
Too number-numbing for me. I liked the part about Mariah. That sounds like sleeping, or should I say, slexing, with Chester, our analog apostle.
Talk about apostles. Did you geezers know that our old friend who wrote those saccharine soliloquies, Cora, hitched up and rode along with 12 of those guys and their leader until she died in a wreck?
Damn, those motorcycle gangs can be rough company to keep, especially for Cora hanging with those hell types.
She got herself into a nunnery and became Sister Cora. There's nothing hellish about her biker gang. These were the real deal angels of the mythical cloth. And she got the calling. She changed herself from public school English lit and poetry teaching into being a parochial, habit-wearing purveyor of both English and the Word of God. In fact, she was named Mother Superior of Providence Academy just before she was killed in a school bus wreck. I heard that the bus driver was either drunk or stoned, and aptly, mad, and the soccer moms kicked his ass in court.
Cora certainly was a woman with a life of her own, and I think she has plenty of room to breathe with her good man in her new neighborhood in what the rabbi refers to as the city of God.
I don't doubt that one bit, but it's ironic how we find such meaning and wisdom in the experiences of others, but too often play the fool by not learning from our own.
Anyone ever wonder why we old goats sometimes talk to ourselves?
Busted.
Yeah. I've done it all my life. Always did wonder why, though.
That doesn't surprise me, Mr. Gotta Get It. I think I have a plausible reason why we get accused of muttering.
I'd love to know the answer, Simone.
My solution, call it answer maybe, is that we have always wondered what's between the lines. Where's the meaning that's in tune with who I am, past, present, and future? And finally, coming up with my version of, or response to, what someone else is thinking was all about may come to me when they're not around, such as in long dead.
I've been thinking, and glad you cats are here so I don't have to drive the squirrels nuts.
Welcome to the club, Roscoe.
Let me continue. Us cats are a breed that has had our fur ruffled, and we get our backs arched and tails in a knot about a lot of things we individually can't do a thing. But collectively, the changes can be ginormous.
Gotta get it.
Well, back when we were kittens in 59, we howled about politics, war, economics, equal rights, and damn near anything accepted as normal. Or maybe fucking ordinary.
Got it. Change was truly extraordinary. In the 60s, we got ourselves the first Catholic president of the U.S., civil rights was on the march, and we had a new army battalion called the Peace Corps.
Right on. Could we have imagined in 59 that in our lifetime, We would have a role in the changes that brought about the first Negro, black U.S. president. It boggles the mind to acknowledge what our generation may have fomented.
No doubt in my mind, Pipes. We cats and generations of our breed are meant to unify, not hermitize, because we need each other and our contemporaries to give us more than our navels to contemplate.
Got it. I propose we get to take a vote today to decide on what we do this afternoon if we called all the shots. Okay? Let's vote and decide on one of these. The economy, the war, healthcare, education, immigration, alternate fuels, the ecology, and last, for us wise cats, but not least, nap.
End of scene.